The sea groaned like a dying beast. Its waves struck against the hulls of Viking ships, sharp, frozen, and merciless. The air itself was a blade. Breath turned to frost before it could vanish. Men wrapped in fur stood motionless, their eyes burning against the endless white horizon. There was no firelight, no smoke rising from the decks, only the eerie glow of the northern lights, rippling over the Black Sea like ghostly banners of forgotten gods, and yet they lived. Not just lived, thrived. For weeks, sometimes months, these voyagers carved paths through oceans of ice and shadow, where even steel froze brittle as glass. They crossed realms that swallowed entire fleets from the south, and still, their longship stayed warm, their hands steady, their hearts burning in silence. How? How did the Vikings get masters of wind, blood, and cold find warmth without fire? How did wooden ships sail through the frozen north when even a single spark could mean death? We imagine them as savages, roaring through storms, torches in hand, fueled by mead and fury. But that image is a lie, because hidden beneath their brutality was something far more astonishing, a mastery of survival, of science, and of nature's cruelest elements. This is the untold secret of Viking endurance, a secret not of conquest but of warmth, born from ingenuity, not flame. Before the Viking longships became legends, they were lifelines, narrow wooden beasts stitched together by bone, iron, and faith. From the fjords of Norway to the frozen veins of the Arctic seas, these vessels were not built for comfort, but for survival. Every plank, every nail, was carved with purpose. Their hulls, slender and flexible, sliced through both storm and ice. Their sails, woven from wool and sealed with animal fat, captured wind like the lungs of gods. And below deck, where the air was thick with salt and silence, the crew huddled in darkness. No fires burned there because fire was death. A single spark, on a ship coated in tar and oil, could consume everything within moments. Even the smallest flame, a candle, a torch, was enough to turn the vessel into a funeral pyre adrift on the endless Black Sea. So the Vikings learned to fight cold with craft, not heat. Their warmth came not from flame, but from design. Thick wool cloaks layered over sealskin tunics, floorboards stuffed with dried moss that trapped body heat, fur-lined sleeping sacks woven so tightly that breath alone could raise the temperature beneath. Some ships even carried heated stones, warmed before departure, then sealed in clay jars and buried under the planks to release their warmth slowly through the night. But that was only the beginning. Because the real secret, the one lost to centuries of myth, lay not in what they wore or carried, but in how they built the ship itself. Every vessel was a thermal labyrinth, crafted by hands that understood both the art of war and the science of wind. It was not brute force that kept them alive. It was engineering, born of necessity and ancient instinct. And as the storms raged and the ice thickened, those who trusted their craft survived, while others vanished beneath the sea, their fires extinguished before they ever began. The North was not a place, it was a hunger. It devoured the weak, swallowed their cries, and turned men into shadows. As the Viking ships sailed deeper into the frozen seas, the line between life and death blurred like breath on glass. The wind howled not as weather, but as memory. It carried voices, whispers of those who had frozen where they stood. Eyes open, skin turned to glass beneath the aurora. For weeks, there was no sun, only the trembling light of stars reflected on the endless white void. Men stopped speaking, their tongues split from the cold, their beards thick with frost. Hands turned black around oars, nails falling away like flakes of bark. The sea itself stiffened, cracking beneath the hulls like breaking bone. And in that silence, a strange madness began to bloom. They said the ice began to speak. That at night, when all fires were forbidden, the creaking planks beneath them whispered. The ship itself seemed alive, breathing in rhythm with the waves, every sound at a heartbeat, every gust kind of voice calling from beneath. Sleep became dangerous. Dreams began to mirror the sea, vast, cold, and endless. Men dreamt of walking across the frozen water, hearing footsteps behind them that never belonged to anyone. Some awoke to find their hands gripping the edge of the ship, ready to jump into the black. The captains knew the cold was no longer their only enemy. It was inside them now, eating from within. A frost that numbed not just flesh, but faith. They burned no torches, yet faces glowed in the dark, pale blue like ghosts trapped beneath their own skin. The strongest among them began to falter. The gods they once worshipped grew silent, and when they called out to Odin, to Thor, to Freya, the only answer was the sound of the sea grinding against ice. Still, the ships pressed forward, creaking, groaning, enduring, each voyage a test of spirit over nature, will over despair. And as the frost claimed one life after another, the survivors began to realize something no scholar or saga had ever recorded, that their survival was not divine, it was designed. They had unknowingly unlocked a principle so advanced, it would take modern science centuries to rediscover it. A secret hidden in the very bones of their ships, a warmth born not of fire, but of engineering genius, crafted to defy the cold itself. For centuries, historians believed Viking endurance was pure will, the stubborn fire of men who refused to freeze. But recent discoveries in Norway's coastal ship burials told a far more astonishing truth. Their warmth was built into the wood. Archaeologists found traces of animal fat, whale oil, and pine resin soaked deep into the planks of Viking ships. What seemed like weatherproofing was, in fact, thermal engineering, a layer that trapped heat within the hull and repelled cold from the sea. Every board, every joint formed an invisible barrier, a cocoon of warmth generated not by flame, but by the collective breath and body heat of the crew. The ships themselves became living chambers, designed to breathe with them. Hidden vents carved between floorboards circulated air subtly, channeling warmth from human bodies and sealing it under the curved decks. Even condensation, that thin mist of exhaled life, was guided along grooves that dripped into the bilge instead of freezing on the surface. This was not luck. This was ancient thermodynamics, born from a culture that observed, adapted, and learned from the elements. They built ships that moved like lungs, inhaling wind, exhaling cold. When the sea's breath froze, their ships breathed back, and the wool sails, they were more than just fabric. They were insulation walls, treated with animal tallow that absorbed sunlight and radiated faint warmth even under weak Arctic skies. It wasn't fire that saved them. It was design, biology and faith woven together, because every Viking knew flame was fragile. But the body, the breath, and the bond of men trapped in the cold, that was the real furnace. They huddled shoulder to shoulder, their cloaks fused by frost, their breath mingling like steam rising from some unseen hearth. And when one man fell asleep, the others pressed closer, not out of mercy but survival. In that frozen silence, warmth was shared, heartbeat to heartbeat, and their ships, soaked in oil and life and myth, kept that heat alive. For the Vikings, warmth was not a comfort, it was a weapon, a silent, invisible fire that burned within the bones of their craft, and within the hearts of those who dared to sail the edge of the world. The icy winds of the north still whisper, carrying the secrets of men who tamed the frozen seas. We have traced their footsteps, felt their frostbite, and glimpsed the invisible warmth that kept them alive. But the story does not end here, for history is a shadowed river, and its currents run deeper than most dare to look. If the courage of the Vikings has stirred something in you, then the journey has only just begun. At Epoch Architect, we uncover the forgotten, the forbidden, and the darkly fascinating corners of history, from the coldest seas to the hidden chambers of empires long vanished. Every shipwreck, every artifact, every ancient whisper holds a story that challenges what you think you know. And you can witness it all, feel it, and learn it before anyone else. So ask yourself, how many secrets lie buried beneath the ice, the soil, the walls of castles and halls that once echoed with blood and power? How many truths have been erased by time only to wait for those brave enough to seek them? If you are ready to step into the shadows of the past, to see history not as a series of dates but as living, breathing moments of triumph, horror, and genius, then subscribe to Epoch Architect now. Join a community that does not settle for the ordinary, that refuses to be satisfied with what textbooks tell you, that chases curiosity like a flame through the cold and dark, because here, every tale is more than a story, and it is an experience. Every secret unveiled is a spark of understanding, and every viewer becomes a witness to the extraordinary. Do not let this knowledge slip away like the mist over the Arctic. Waters, hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and journey with Epoch Architect through the chilling, the hidden, and the astonishing truths of our world. The Vikings discovered warmth where fire could not survive. Now, discover the fire of knowledge where history itself tries to hide.